Is Alabama back, or is Missouri, well, just done? We truly, I don't think, have the answer to that after a 34-0 finish out in Tuscaloosa. But we're going to break down exactly what we saw during today's game. Alabama secures the victory. Welcome on into the SEC Unfiltered postgame show. He's Dave Shumate. I'm Cole Thompson. Breaking down everything that we saw at Bryant-Denny Stadium as the Crimson Tide headed into the bye week, now sitting with a massive victory. Real quickly, make sure that you hit the subscribe button down below. That way you keep up to date with everything that we're doing here on the channel. Make sure that also you follow us on the socials, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at SEC Unfiltered. Download the podcast version of the show wherever you get your podcast listening systems. Follow Dave at Mock 10 Sports, me at Mr. Cole Thompson, and check out all of our great work found at SECUnfiltered.com. This postgame show is brought to you by our friends over at RHOBACK. Go to RHOBACK.com, use the promo code SECU for 20% off your first purchase. Joggers, polos, hoodies, shorts, much, much more. Look good, feel good this upcoming fall on game days with RHOBACK.com. Dave, I don't really know what to make of this game. If I'm being completely honest, yes, you didn't see a lot from Jalen Milroe. You didn't have to see a lot from Jalen Milroe. For the most part, this was a game that was more so decided on Brady Cook's overall limitations. And when they went to Drew Pine, it was kind of a waving of the white flag moment.
Yeah, you're right. Once Brady, he played, obviously, most of the first half. But you could tell he wasn't 100%. But once you kind of knew Brady Cook was more – once you already had the high ankle sprain, I think we all knew. Because me and you, Cole, did the video on Monday, the preview of this game? And we both thought it would be a
Monday.
game. But I think once you saw he was on the injury report and doubtful, I even said it on my show, Dave Talks Ball. I was like, I think Bama probably big now. It just kind of felt like, yeah, they're just not going to have enough juice to go do it. I thought Bama's offense could end up mustering some stuff up on offense because – let's be honest, Missouri's front seven isn't South Carolina's front seven or Tennessee's front seven. So they get a break here a little bit. But I thought once they started getting field position, Alabama in the first half, and weren't backed up inside their own 20, they started to put some things together. I thought it was a soft holding call on who was it? Jam Miller, I believe, out there on the edge. They called back. Bama had to settle for a field goal. Thought it was a good call to series, one before the half. But overall, I think you did what you we're supposed to do against a team that was undermanned. You won a game 34-0. I know they're ranked 19th. I think you would agree too, Cole. That Missouri team is not the 19th ranked team in the country.
No, of course not.
It wasn't like Bama. In the second half, they put it away. Take it for what it is. Like I said all week, there's not a team, there's not a player that needs a bye week more than the Alabama Crimson Tide right now.
I think when you look at Jalen Milroe, the way that he played today, it was very pedestrian, but at the same time, it was let's not make too many mistakes to allow Missouri to capitalize and stay in this matchup. And they trusted the run game, which I thought was a really good point of emphasis. We talked about it on the pregame. They had to establish the run. They averaged 7.3 yards per play. All 4 touchdowns came on the ground. They were able to kind of get that identity rolling. They were able to figure out what works, what doesn't. You did see Jalen Milroe kind of pick up the pace a little bit with his legs. That was kind of the MO that you want in this game. And for me, the big point was when you needed to see a big-time play in the passing attack, you got a big-time play in the passing attack. Jalen Milroe finished with over 270 yards of offense. On top of that, he connected with Jeremy Bernard 5 times for 82 yards, Ryan Williams 4 times for 53 yards, Emmanuel Henderson for a 28-yard gain, C.J. Dupree for a 23-yard gain. You saw enough to where you feel like that this is the Alabama that we kind of expect. This is the Alabama that we figured was going to be kind of every single week. And yes, does it help when you don't have Brady Cook on the field and then the offense is very limited on the opposing side? Absolutely. But still, you control what you control. And what you controlled was a very solid offensive game plan by Jalen Milroe, by this passing attack, by this run game. And you walked away unscathed to be able to pick up a 34-0 victory.
No, I completely agree too. Your point about the run game, Cole. I think it was the highest amount of rushing attempts they had, 37? I saw it was the first time all year Jam Miller, Justice Haynes combined for over 70 yards in a game. You're glad you leaned on the run game. Overall, though, you're right, though. You take this win as it is. Again, I think no one needs this more. You feel like you got a little momentum there. Defense, shoot, back-to-back weeks. They still have their holes. Tennessee left some meat on the bone in the first half. We talked about it. Brady Cook. I don't really feel like Missouri left any meat on the bone in the first half. They were just limited. Bama took advantage of it. They picked up their first down in the late second quarter, third quarter.
Midway through the second quarter.
Yeah, but back-to-back games, Bama is giving up 0 points in the first half. I mean, again, it's not a fantastic defense, but I think anyone expecting it to magically turn into one is going to be severely disappointed. But you do see things that are getting a little better in. I mean, Bray Hubbard, a little bit limited athletically, but the kid makes up for it with his instincts. So I think there's stuff to be fired up about the defense about. Some things to go work on. If you're Alabama, you're a little bit excited. The last time they came off a bye week, they they definitely played their best half of the football season against Georgia. So, like you said, Cole, you can't take too much from this, but at the same time, penalties were limited. Once Bama started getting field position, they got into a rhythm. You liked what you saw. They could have scored at the end if they wanted to, too.
I think the other thing that's really important here is that with Alabama, now they get to get healthy. Now they get to get players back on the field. Now they get to take a week, regroup, reassess what's going on behind closed doors, have everyone prepared. The matchup against LSU seems manageable because if you watched a performance today of what we expect from Alabama, we expect them to be consistent on third down. We expect them not to be shooting themselves in the foot with errant penalties. We expect them to be a team that plays up to a certain standard, and they didn't play down to a team. But with that being said, partially that's affected by what we see from Missouri. And Missouri, again, as much as we want to not take too much away from Alabama's standpoint, we don't want to take too much away from Missouri's standpoint. They were basically one arm tied behind the back by the midway through the second quarter. They were really tied behind the back because they didn't have a quarterback. They went to Drew Pine immediately when he comes out. First drive of the series, interception. Second drive of the series, interception. Third drive of the series, punt. Fourth drive of the series, interception. So you kind of realize pretty quickly Alabama's going to walk away with the win. They may only be up 13, but they get the benefit of the doubt of not having to worry about what Brady Cook can do, connecting with a Luther Burden on 3rd and 12, connecting with a Theo Wees on 2nd and 7 that turns into a 28-yard game, connecting with a Mookie Cooper or a Marquise Johnson who's back fully healthy. I'm not saying that that's enough to give me any hope or emphasis for what is going to be Mizzou or Alabama moving forward, but it is enough for me to say, if this is the version of Alabama that we see, then that can be sustainable when you play against LSU, when maybe you play against Oklahoma, and when you play in the Iron Bowl.
Yeah, to your point about Missouri, you're right. It's kind of tough to go take anything offensively. Right? You're without your leading rusher. I mean, you weren't without him, but Brady, they hung him up at halftime. They weren't going to get anything from that perspective. You got winnable games, though, Cole. You still got a lot of winnable games left on the schedule there for Missouri if you want to if you want to be completely honest about it. You feel pretty good about them. Let's see, I'm pulling up my schedule right now. They still have games against Arkansas. They're off. Then they play Oklahoma at home, at South Carolina, at Mississippi State and Arkansas.
Every game is winnable, to say the least. But also the point of the emphasis is every game is losable. But I feel one way or another about Missouri simply because of this performance.
That's going to be a game, Cole. I think people, when they're reviewing the year for Missouri, you're probably going to sit there and be like, do we even count this one? Like a little bit against Eli Drinkwitz in it. If you're being objective, I feel like.
For the most part, I would agree with that. Think about this for a second. Drew Pine finishes 6 of 12 for 42 yards and 3 interceptions. Nobody has that type of performance, and you say, that is the normal plan after what we've seen from Missouri throughout the entire offseason. And again, if this is a game that ends up being 34-0 with Brady Cook fully healthy, with the running game being as potent as it was with Nate Noel and Marcus Carroll, maybe we have a different feel. But the problem is that we don't. They weren't without their number one running back. They were limited with their quarterback. They turned to the backup. They had to turn to the third stringer because they realized this is not going to work. We can't have 3 interceptions. And by the way, when they finally decided to turn to number 17, when they finally decided to turn to the last guy, he never threw a pass. It was just Marcus Carroll and Jones. So you kind of realize at this point, this wasn't the Missouri that we were expecting in this matchup. Maybe it was the outcome when Kalen DeBoer was hired. Maybe it was the outcome we envisioned when Alabama was playing against Georgia and they were looking elite in the first half. It's hard for me to judge what we've seen from Missouri simply based off of what we saw today.
Yeah, I would be more fired up about what Alabama did than I would be disappointed in Missouri. I'm with you. My thoughts don't really change on Missouri. They've had a weird few weeks. You had the A&M game. The UMass one was essentially another bye week. You had the A&M game, you got embarrassed. The UMass one. Brady Cook comes in with a heroic performance to beat Auburn that you lose if he doesn't come back. And then
you 100% lose.
You're out. He's, again, what is this high ankle sprain? Bye week couldn't come for a better time for him, too. I was saying Jalen Milroe, but for Missouri and them to stay at 10-2, and I'll be honest with you, Cole, I don't like to just look ahead to the playoffs. I don't think you do either, just because you like to watch college football for what it is. But from a playoff perspective, I just don't think – I think Missouri at 10-2 doesn't get it. I don't know what your big win is going to be at the end of the day.
Missouri
your two losses are blowouts. Granted, I think they would kind of hold this one and be like, they didn't have they didn't have Brady Cook. But again, he's going to be probably dealing with that high ankle sprain all year.
Missouri at this point is a team that does get hurt by the new playoff format because of when you have 10-2 rosters in the ACC, 10-2 rosters in the Big 10, Big 12 even. You're going to start looking at not just resume, but also branding. And Missouri's not a big brand in the SEC. So when it comes down to, do we put in a 10-2 Virginia Tech or a 10-2 Missouri, who is the marquee win against? Or what was your best performance? Virginia Tech played down to the wire and needed a Hail Mary pass to be broken up at the very last second against Miami to secure a loss. What's the win for Mizzou? Coming back down 14-0 against an Auburn team that is 2 games away that isn't going to be eligible for a bowl game? That's where the problem is that when you look at the college football playoff today and how they seem to be treating the selection process, wins are more important than losses. You can have a bad loss to, say, a Kentucky, as long as you have a great win over a Georgia or over a Alabama or over a Ole Miss for that matter. You can have a bad loss to a USC so long as you counterpart it with a top 10 victory. There's not going to be a top 10 victory on the schedule for Missouri. Their best chance right now to guarantee their spot is South Carolina continuing their good momentum. They get a win next week over Texas A&M, and then when they play South Carolina, they then beat South Carolina, who is a ranked opponent. That is their best calling card, and it's not guaranteed at this point.
No, they need to be big South Carolina and Arkansas fans. Oklahoma's not going to do anything for you. Mississippi State's not going to do anything for you. You're right. Like, it's just you kind of sit there. You're like, dang, dude, we may not beat a team with double-digit wins this year, or even a team. I mean, South Carolina gets 8 wins; they'll be in the top 25. But you're right. I don't even know if that kind of win carries you over because both your losses are blowout. I mean, just. Again, I wouldn't say Alabama just rolled the balls out and kicked their ass from the get-go. It's 13-0 at half, 3-0 for a while. But it was, definitely Bama dominated the second half. No, Missouri's interesting. Their main focus, they just need to get healthy. They need to get Brady Cook healthy.
The bye week is coming at a good time for both these teams. Here's the way that you look at Alabama's schedule for the rest of the year. LSU, Mercer, Oklahoma, Auburn. The performance that they had today with a fully healthy Jalen Milroe, what do you expect? Because if I still think 10-2 is on the table, I think 9-3 is on the table. I don't think 8-4 is. I think if we saw the version of Alabama's defense not shoot itself in the foot with blundering plays, the special teams at the very beginning of the game, they were a bit of a challenge. You got to remember, there was the muff punt that nearly was almost a turnover.
Yeah.
But besides that, it was a clean game. It was a direct game. It was a mature win by Kalen DeBoer's squad after a couple of really underwhelming performances.
Only 7 penalties today. It's an improvement.
I feel like that 9-3, 10-2 is what we're looking at for ceiling and floor. Do you feel like that there's an opportunity for somebody to pull off an upset if Alabama looks like this moving forward, like whether it be Auburn or whether it be Oklahoma?
Yeah, I just think this team's inconsistencies week to week have shown me nothing to think they can take any team in the SEC outside of maybe Mississippi State and I guess Brady Cookless Missouri team, not serious. Auburn has shown they can move the football and put up points. That'll be Hugh Freeze's one time to maybe make up for a couple of these losses if they were to beat Alabama and Tuscaloosa for the first time since 2016. I don't know. This team's bad enough at times. They play poor enough to keep teams in there. Auburn's serviceable on defense. I'm not ready to say Auburn will win the game. I've been saying for a couple of weeks, I think that game is going to be close for the first time in Tuscaloosa in a while. I just think it is. Oklahoma, again, that was one sample size of John Finley's offense with Jackson Arnold. I'd like to see it again. If it looks to be improved, maybe it's on the road. Oklahoma could be fighting for 6. Oklahoma's defense keeps them in games. We've shown Bama commits a lot of penalties on the road. Jalen Milroe can be bad at times. It wouldn't shock me if that game's close in the fourth quarter, but I think their season's ultimately going to come down to in 2 weeks in Baton Rouge, whether LSU wins tonight or not. I mean, if you're Alabama, you're probably cheering for LSU to win tonight. Because LSU is a good shot to probably move into the top 5 potentially. If they were to win tonight, you go potentially get a top 5 road win, and your 2 big wins you can hang your hat on from a college football playoff standpoint. If you're finished 10-2, Georgia, and then a top 5 road win. Not a lot of teams have that. But no, I think their season just is going to come down to Baton Rouge. Right now, I would lean. Again, I don't know if they're disciplined enough to go get a road win in a difficult environment right now.
The beauty about Alabama with the resume is that they will have a win over the number 1 team in the country and a win in arguably the most hostile environment in the SEC against what will be at least a top 7 opponent if LSU holds their end of the bargain tonight and they get a win. So that benefits a team like Alabama because it is very clear that when you are a prominent program, and more importantly, when you are a program that has the potential to go deep into the college football playoff, there's enough to like about where your resume stands. And they would have the resume to get in at 10-2. For Missouri at 10-2, nothing is guaranteed. But I got to ask you, Dave, if they have to move forward with Drew Pine, let's just say for some reason in 2 weeks they play and they're without Brady Cook. Is this a team that's going to go 8-4, 7-5?
Missouri, yeah. I mean, if Drew Pine, I mean, I would lean probably Oklahoma right now with Drew Pine at quarterback. I don't think they beat South Carolina with Drew Pine.
They don't beat South Carolina with Drew Pine.
I mean, Mississippi State, they'd be itching for their first conference win. It's going to be a tough game if it's Drew Pine, and then Arkansas at home definitely is a losable game against Drew Pine. They could lose any game, and I think the only game they probably could win with him is probably at Mississippi State.
And even still, I'm not sure that's a guarantee the way that Drew Pine looked today.
I mean, with Drew Pine, ceiling 1 win, floor all 4.
It's not their own possibility. That's for damn sure. Do you think at this point, when you look at Mizzou, they still have a shot to finish 10-2? Because I feel like even with Brady Cook, you're waiting for this heroic moment to kind of break out and be that difference maker. And I don't know if you can do that against a team like Oklahoma. If you can do that against a team like Missouri, against a team like Mississippi State. If you can do that against a team like Arkansas, who those are the 4 games. South Carolina completely off the schedule because that's going to be a road environment. That's going to be a game in Cola. They're not going to get that done if they're down. If they're losing by double digits going into the fourth quarter, that's automatically a chalked up win for South Carolina. Do you feel like that at this point, when it comes down to Brady Cook, it is all based off of simply we have to have that heroic moment?
I mean, I think he just has to play. I don't even know if it's a heroic moment. They're 7-5, 8-4 easily. If it's the Drew Pine show across the board. And Brady Cook's gonna be dealing with a high ankle sprain for the rest of the year. That just doesn't magically go away in 4 or 5 weeks in a contact sport like the sport of football. So I think they drop about 2 more. I mean, right now I don't feel confident against South Carolina, and I would be shocked if they beat both Oklahoma and Arkansas. I know they're at home, but I would probably say they split those at best and then lose at South Carolina.
The way the offense has looked, even with Brady Cook this year, 9-3 feels more likely than 10-2. But Alabama gets the win. They get into the bye week. Now they get to hit the reset button and hopefully secure their spot in the college football playoff for the rest of the month of November. Missouri, no idea what to make of it, but like, rate, review, subscribe. Make sure that you're following us on the social channels, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at SEC Unfiltered. Follow Dave at Mock 10 Sports, me at Mr. Cole Thompson. Check out all of our great work found at secunfiltered.com. For Dave Shumate, I'm Cole Thompson. Alabama secures a win. Can they secure a spot in the college football playoff? That will be decided in 2 weeks down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Peace.